Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Industry Insiders. Today's conversation is about something that doesn't get talked about enough in business, the human side of building companies. Strategy matters, technology matters, growth matters. But after working with hundreds of companies over 4 decades, today's guest believes the biggest challenge leaders face isn't strategy at all. It's understanding and developing the people inside their organizations. Joining me today is Barry Saltzman, a longtime technology executive advisor and fractional COO, has spent more than 40 years helping founders and leadership teams solve complex growth and operational challenges. Barry has worked with organizations across industries, often stepping in as a strategic advisor, helping companies improve leadership alignment, develop stronger teams, and scale more effectively. Barry, great to have you here.
Thank you, Rick. Super excited to share some ideas and wisdom from my many years of working with great people and great companies across the US.
You've got a lot to offer here, and we're going to try and unpack and pick your brain on some stuff that I believe can really be beneficial to anybody who watch this. So, as you've spent your 40 years in the tech world, today you often step into companies as an advisor, fractional CEO, helping leaders, leadership teams grow and scale. Take us back for a moment. What originally pulled you into the world of building and advising companies?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rick. When I was way younger, when I started my career, which was in the New York area, I came out of college with a business degree in computers, and back in those days, computers were not what we think of today. Like they were not PCs and Macs and iPads. These were mainframes and mini computers. It was a very, very different world. I somehow landed my first job working for a small technology company. And that's when the PC first came out. So I got really introduced into the business world when the personal computer first came out, working for a very small company that got acquired. So here I am, young kid, I know nothing, I have a college degree, and now we were acquired by this massive corporation out of New York City. Over the next 12 years, I got to be part of this experience of going from this little tiny company through 30 acquisitions to end up as a $2.2 billion business. So for 12 years, Rick, I got to literally just be a passenger on the roller coaster and learn and grow. And through that journey, I got to meet incredible people, and I got to experience all different styles of managers and leaders and cultures. And after 12 years, I ultimately moved to Chicago at that point. You know, I got to see what people did for me. I got to see how people helped other organizations. It was always a dream of mine to get to the point where I could actually do what was done for me to help other people and other organizations. So I got to see it. I got to be a part of it as the receiver. Then as I gained experience and skills, I wanted to give back and offer it to others.
Yeah, and I think your 40 years, obviously, one of your big advantages is that most founders, and for that matter, CEOs and COOs, maybe only experience one company, that'd be their own. And your experience has been through multiple companies. That gives you a very unique vantage point. So when you step back and look across everything you've seen, what separates the companies that truly scale from the ones that plateau?
Yeah, great question. I think three things, Rick. One is you have to have a strategy, right? So a lot of really successful businesses, there's an intention and a purpose and a strategy. So people wake up and they know what they're supposed to be doing and it's aligned to a real plan, right? A lot of small businesses don't have plans, but really successful companies have a strategy. Number two, what you're doing has to be extremely relevant to the market, right? So you could have a great plan, but if the product or service is not relevant to the market, no one's going to buy it, right? Nobody cares. So you have to make sure that the market wants and needs what you offer. And the third piece is you've got to have the right people to execute the plan and deliver the product or service. So a lot of companies I've seen have great strategies, great people, but what they offer, the market doesn't want or need. A lot of companies have great people, the market wants or needs something, but they don't have the right strategy. So to me, it's like a three-legged stool. If all three are in place, your probability of success goes up exponentially.
So when somebody brings you in, they're usually facing some sort of challenge. That's why they're bringing you in. What are some of the most common leadership mistakes you see companies make when they try to scale?
Yeah, so leadership specific to mistakes. So many times the capacity of the team or the skill of the team is not capable of doing what the leader wants. So great product, great service, market market wants it, the team's not capable of delivering. So the leader is way too focused on pushing and driving to some result without understanding the capacity or the capability of their team, right? So there's a huge gap there. And what you get to fill the gap, you've got to, train up and educate the team to get better at delivering. Many times you see, I'll use the word dysfunction, where the leadership team is not working well together or the leadership team is not working well with their people. There's just a gap and you could just feel, I've been doing it for a long time, Rick. So sometimes I could sit in a meeting and I could just feel it, right? The energy's not there. You're
Mhm.
listening to the conversation and what the managers are saying or not what the people are saying and vice versa. So there's just poor alignment between the team. And another thing I see, unfortunately, more often than I like to see is the organization is not spending enough time with their customers. So they're not embracing their customers. So what I like to do, Rick, when I start a new engagement is I always like to go out and talk to the client's customers, kind of do a little, I call it a little interview. And it's
Mhm.
always interesting for me to hear what the top customers are saying and sharing with me versus what the team is saying and sharing with me. And many times there's a gap, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, so, but at the end of the day, for me, it always comes down to people, whether the people are the leadership people, whether it's the people that are doing the work, whether it's the customers, the vendors that you're partnering with. Unless you have built a business where your product is thriving because of the brand, where people are buying the brand, which is
Mhm.
not the world that I play in. I don't play in that world at all. I play in the world of B2B services. It's always about the people.
Right. Right.
And it's harder today, Rick, than it ever has been because of post-COVID with people working remote made it significantly more challenging for businesses to hire, retain, train, develop, engage with people when they're sitting, at home staring at a screen all day. It's very, very challenging compared to when I was younger, where we all sat in an office, we built relationships, we knew each other, we went out and had lunch and dinner together. So very, very different times, bigger challenge.
Well, that face-to-face interaction, you can't fake that. You can't technology that away. It's that communication, it has a certain element to it that makes you more connected.
Exactly. Well, we're typically on Zoom or on video around a meeting or a topic. But where we're not on Zoom together is like if you were to go grab a cup of coffee right now, and I was to go grab a cup of
Hmm.
coffee, we're not engaged in any conversation if you're doing it at your house and I'm doing it at my house. Whereas in the office, if we're both grabbing a cup of coffee, there's always some level of small talk, right? Hey, Rick, how's your
Hmm.
family? How are things in
Hmm.
Wisconsin? Did it snow last
Right.
week? That's not
Right.
happening
Right.
outside of formal meetings.
Well, I don't have to tell you this, but that's where some of the great ideas come from, are those just little off-record chats that something clicks, and that could be the idea that really makes that company go or fixes some issue that they have.
Yeah, 100%. So last night, Rick, I have this
Mm.
new client that's less than 2 months. And last night I actually went out and had dinner with their CEO. So the two of us went out for dinner and we sat for almost 3 hours and we talked about business for maybe the 20 minutes, a half an hour. Um, and we just got to know each other. And he learned about me, I learned about him, and it was amazing, right? Because I
Mhm.
know so much about him as a person. I know so much more about their business. He has the same about me, and it created significantly more opportunities for me because now I understand him better and the business better. I'm like, how about this and how about that? How could you do that without going face to face?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing you said during our prep call that really caught my attention, you mentioned that you often tell leaders you're not making enough mistakes, you need to fail more.
Yeah.
So that's not the kind of advice that most executives expect to hear. Why do you believe failure is actually an important part of leadership and growth?
Yeah, great question, Rick. I truly believe the only way to get better at anything is to fail, right? If I think about like my personal life, I'm a tennis player, been playing tennis my whole life, and I probably made, 10 million mistakes in tennis, and I keep learning and growing from my mistakes. Same thing in business. If people truly want to grow, you have to try things and you have to put yourself out there. Now, there's a difference between an acceptable mistake and an unacceptable mistake, right? So one of the things I bring to the table over 40 years is I've made significantly more mistakes and had more failures than most people I deal with. I've been doing it for a long time. I screw up and mess up all the time. However, I don't make the significant mistakes. And to me, there's two mistakes you can't make. One is you can't make a mistake that's financially devastating. And number two, you can't make a mistake that's human resource devastating. You can't cross that HR line. You can't violate people. You got to respect people. So when it comes to human values and it comes to finance, don't mess those up. Screw up everything else and learn.
Yeah, excellent point. Those are ones that you might not be able to recover from, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. You cross the HR line and you get sued. What is that going to do for your personal brand and for the company's brand? Or if you just blew all the money and it's gone. Yeah. So again, you've got to have like a awareness of when you make a decision. I always think about what's the best and worst case scenario. If the worst
Hmm.
case scenario is I'm going to be embarrassed, I recommended something, I'm going to look silly, I can deal with that. But if the downside is I've just told the company to invest all their money into something and they're out of business, unacceptable.
Yeah. So that kind of gets into the next question I was going to have. You mentioned a simple but powerful value system that you operate by. Don't cause financial devastation, don't violate people, and be brutally honest. How have these principles shaped the way you advise leaders and run organizations?
Yeah, so we talked about the financial mistakes and the people mistakes. You got to really be very careful there. When it comes to being brutally honest with people, this is a real big challenge for many human beings just in general. Many people have a very hard time sharing their true feelings for many different reasons, right? They don't want to hurt the feelings of the other person, right? So a lot of times, Rick, when I'm in my conversations with my clients, they'll share something with me about a person, and I'll be, oh, that's interesting. Did you tell them that? Like, why are you telling me? Have you told them that? They're like, no, 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 I haven't told them that. I don't want to hurt their feelings and then we'll talk about that. And there's a book that was written, it's called Radical Candor. And it's an excellent book that talks about you're almost doing someone a disservice if you're not honest with them. Because I don't know about you, Rick, but if I'm doing something wrong or if there's feedback that you want to give me, I really want you to give me that feedback. As much as it might hurt me, and I'm not going to be happy to hear that I did something that didn't meet your level of satisfaction, I'd rather know.
Hmm.
So I was brought up under the motto, I can handle bad news. I don't like surprises. So what I've learned in my years of doing what I do, and particularly with coaching, when I deal with a lot of individuals, they want to know what the boss is thinking. They want to know what the boss is feeling. And sometimes they wonder why they don't tell them. So I encourage people, there's a good way to deliver tough news, right? You sit down with someone, you be like, Rick, obviously I value you as an employee, you're an incredibly important person. I want to share something with you, but let's stay focused on the issue. There's nothing to do about how I feel about you. I think you're a wonderful person, but I don't like the way you handled this situation yesterday, and it caused me some discomfort. can we talk about this? And there's a way to package it and present it, which is way better than not telling a person. Because can you imagine coming to work every day wondering how someone feels, and it just starts getting in your head and it influences you, and it's a huge distractor. It's not going to bring out the best
Yeah.
in you if you're worried about how someone feels all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's going to affect all aspects of the work that you do, and may even make you hesitate to make other suggestions that could be beneficial to the business or to the workflow or to other employees.
Yeah, and everybody acts stress out differently, right? Depending on their
Hmm.
profile and their personality. Some people with stress, they go into a shell and they don't say anything.
Hmm.
Some people with stress, they act it out in an aggressive way. And, you know, you as the leader, you as the manager, you owe it to your employee to deliver the truth in an effective way. And I spend a lot of my time from a coaching perspective trying to help people do that. And when they do it, it makes them feel better that, oh, I got it off my chest. I finally told Sally how I feel. And Sally at least knows, well, now I know how the boss feels. So, now let's deal with reality.
Yeah. So you focus mainly, Barry, on the human side of the equation when it comes to businesses that you step into. So you've conducted thousands of individual assessments and spent years helping founders understand their teams. So from everything you've seen, what do great leaders understand about people that average leaders often miss?
Yeah, great question. The great leaders are more mindful of the impact of their behavior to others. So there's different types of leaders. Some leaders will just bark out orders and say, do this, do this, do that. And they don't, I mean, they literally don't care about what anyone feels, or they say they care, but they're really not mindful and they're paying attention to it. What great leaders do is they understand their people and they pay attention to how their people react to their delivery of their information. So, like for me, I know
Mhm.
if I say something to someone, if I have to deliver tough news to someone, I'll deliver it, hopefully in a compassionate way. But I'll also be very mindful of how the person is responding to what I'm saying. So if they respond to me in a negative way, like body language, their eyes are rolling, I'm paying attention to their reaction, not just barking the orders. The great leaders do that. And what that does is that creates trust. It
Mhm.
allows me to come back to my boss and say, I'm going to tell you the truth because I trust you. Whereas if that relationship doesn't exist, there's a huge gap between employee and leader or manager.
Yeah. So that brings us into our next question. We want to talk about building strong teams, and we can use a sports analogy of a coach coaching a team. The coach's job is to figure out how to bring out the best in each individual while still getting the team aligned and playing together. So, what are some practical ways leaders can build teams that actually perform well together?
Yeah, so with one of the assessment tools that I've been using for many years, they have these two little exercises you do. One is called Talk to Me, and the other is called Understand Me. So imagine, Rick, I just get
Mhm.
hired, and now I have a team of 10 people. I don't know these people, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run an assessment on these 10 people. I just want to collect some data to give me an idea of, are they an extrovert? Are they an introvert? How do they communicate? How do they solve problems? Basic information. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the team together and I'm going to go through these fun little exercises. And what we do, it's really, I've done this many times. It's always fascinating when you experience it. So, for example, Rick, I might say to you, hey, Rick, I got a question for you. If I have to deliver you corrective feedback, let's assume hypothetically you do something that is not to my satisfaction. How would you like me to deliver that to you? And I just literally shut up and
Yeah,
listen, right? Now you're going
yeah,
to tell me, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, so with these talk to me and understand me exercises, what happens is you take your team, you break them up into groups of two. The two people ask each other a variety of different questions. You bring everyone back together, and everybody shares with the group. Hey, when you're working with Barry, if you've got to give Barry corrective feedback, the best way to do it for Barry is just get right to the point. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't give him a 20-minute story. Don't worry about him feeling bad. Just get right to the point and tell him the truth. great. And it could be when you're giving news to Sally, just be aware that Sally's very sensitive. If you deliver bad news to her, she goes into a
Hmm.
shell. So make sure you let Sally know that you love her and you care for her and she's awesome, and then deliver the news. So what happens, Rick, in these little team building exercises, everyone on the team is learning how to talk and understand each other. And when you do that, it's incredibly powerful because people will say, I didn't know that about you. And well, that's why we do this, right? So it's taking the
Hmm.
time in a team meeting to talk about how can we work well together versus just talking about the business stuff.
So
And that's what
it's strengthening the relationship as much as anything.
it's understanding each other so that we can communicate to each other more effectively to build trust. Ultimately,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it's all about building trust. Are you familiar with Patrick Lencioni?
No, I'm not.
He wrote a book about dysfunctions of a team, and the underlying foundation is trust. If there is no trust, it's going to be really difficult to scale, right? So trust
Hmm.
is the most common denominator, and a lot of teams don't spend time getting to know each other or building relationships. Because once you and I trust each other, Rick, we could work really well together because I could say anything to you because you know deep down inside that we've got a relationship and we trust each other.
Right. Right. There's that foundation there. There's that foundation that's built on trust. And yeah, that opens up everything to us that way.
Yeah, because if you say something to me that's harsh, I'm not going to go home at the end of the day and worry about am I losing my job.
All right.
Yep.
Right.
So then it's hard. And in today's world, it's interesting because very different than when I was younger and when we were all together. Again, remote workers, different generation out there.
Hmm.
How do you build these trusted relationships as a team when you've got employees sitting on Zoom thousands of miles away? And I'm living through that now with a client of mine where it's all young people. We're all over the country. And what we decided to do, which is really cool, because the feedback the team gave me was culture is really important to us. We want to get to know each other better. Let's make sure we're spending time just having fun. Okay, great. So I took someone on the team. I said, "You're now the manager of fun, right? Every 90 days, you're responsible for coming up with an event that we're going to do as a team that has nothing to do with work." And we've just done two. We just did it last week. It was really cool. We did an online escape room exercise where they broke us up into little
Oh.
teams. It was really cool. It was, and
Hmm.
I got to work with two other people who I work with all the time, but I got to see them and know them differently. So every 90 days we do a fun event online where we get to just know each other better.
Right. Yeah. That's an interesting way to attack that because in this day and age of being everybody spread out all over the place, like you say, you don't get that going out for coffee and just having a chat type feeling with each other because the only time you see each other is through a screen
Yep,
and usually
exactly.
with through work. So like I don't know if you're a cat lover or a dog lover. I don't know if you like vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream, but those things are kind of nice to know from people that you're working with and trying to build trust in a relationship with.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting today too, because I'll be on a video call and all of a sudden, the employee will have their child will be on their lap or the dog will be in the background. And again,
Mhm.
there's an appropriate time and place for everything, but part of the team building is don't get upset if someone's got their child sitting on their lap because again, you want to build that relationship. Now clearly if we have a client presentation, that's not appropriate. So it's
Right.
the rules have changed, Rick, and it's like I love this technology because it's allowed me to do what I do without traveling, right? I love it, but it's presented me with different challenges. So I have to go out of my way with all of my clients, which I do, is when I'm doing a one-on-one coaching session, the first 10, 15 minutes has nothing to do with work. Just getting to know them, talking about them. And then once they're talking about their family, their spouse, their hobbies, their favorite sports team, they it's almost like they took a deep breath and now they're more calm and relaxed. I want to put them in a positive state of mind and relax them before we talk about business versus getting on the call and immediate like, you know, what's your pipeline and did you hit your numbers? And so
Well, it's the process of getting people to open up making them more relaxed and getting to open up. Because, like you say, if you come in with rapid fire right from the get-go, they're going to be a little bit guarded. They're not going to open up things to you that could make or break the whole session.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So you've spent decades watching industries evolve, especially in technology and now AI. Looking ahead over the next few years, what shifts do you think business leaders should start preparing for today?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, Rick. If we have the answer, can we charge for that if people watch this podcast? uh, everybody,
I
everybody's
think so.
everybody's thinking about that right now. So there's a few different places to go with that. Number one, definitely you got to really understand AI and the impact that AI has, not only on your own business, which it's going to have a dramatic impact on making you more productive and helping you do more for less, right? But I think where you got to really start to focus is the customers and the industries you serve, right? So how is how is AI going to impact my target market? So for me, one of my target markets is the technology services business, right? Companies that provide services around technology. So I might think about how AI can make me more productive and effective, but really what I need to be thinking about is the customer, right? The market.
Right.
So what I recommend, and I do this all the time now, is I recommend people do a lot of research on the industries that they currently serve to understand how is it going to change. Because if I'm selling you something today for, say, $5,000 a month, it's quite possible in a year, 2 years from now, you're not going to need that anymore. So I have nothing to sell you. And also think about what are you really good at and what problems do you solve? And are there other new and emerging industries that you could bring that capability to? So you got to look internally and you have to look externally at the market. There's a ton of research that's available. Pick any industry. I'm with a client now that's in the real estate industry. I'm not from the real estate industry. I've been working with them for 6 months. I'm doing a ton of research on the real estate industry. What are the trends? What's changing? How is AI going to impact it? So I think it's a balance of the internal and the external. And then you got to think about the people, right? You know, how is this shift going to affect my people? There's a lot of talk about AI replacing people's jobs, which it is. AI is going to create a lot of jobs.
Yes.
So if you look at the history of the world, things have happened that have displaced people, but it's created new opportunity. This one's a little bit more interesting with AI. We're not quite sure where it's going to land, but
Well, I think in my view, just as important as knowing what AI can do, it's equally as important to know what AI cannot do. And sometimes the big hype over AI is going to cost X number of jobs, it's going to take these jobs. It will displace some people, some
yeah,
jobs that that will be able to be handled by the current workforce that they have. Just it's augmenting their capabilities. Um, but I think people get a little bit ahead of themselves in thinking that AI is just going to replace the whole workforce because it
oh
can't.
yeah,
It still needs humans to keep
yeah,
track of
yeah,
it and watch it.
yeah. And according to the data, at least recent data is, 95% of AI projects fail, which is interesting, right?
Hmm.
It's and I don't know if you remember back to do you remember back to the Y2K days?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Right, because
yeah.
people were concerned that the world was going to end, on January 1st,
Hmm.
right? So, and nothing happened. So there's so much noise out there, but it's real, right? At the end of the day, AI is real. It's continuing to evolve. It's getting better, and everybody's everybody's stuck their toe in the water to some extent. What I recommend to people is learn as much as you can about AI, learn how to use AI for your own business that makes you more effective, but
Hmm.
don't forget the customer, right? Don't wake up tomorrow and be like,
Hmm.
oh my God, the industry that I used to serve doesn't need me anymore because its technology has changed. So you always want to be looking at things from multiple lenses.
Well, and that goes along in the theme that I've seen in the people that I've been talking to over this last month and a half is that there seems to be a rotation back to paying more attention to the human side of things. There was a trend there for a while where things are getting too mechanical through AI, just getting too harsh, not that softer human touch to them. And there seems to be a rotation back to paying more attention to the human side of things and that actual interaction and the human touch versus relying on a machine to do that.
Yeah, yeah. What's hard about this topic, Rick, for me is I'm in the tech world. That's the world that I'm
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
So a lot of the clients and people that I interact with are deep into the AI stuff. So I'm hearing what's going
Hmm.
on the top end of the pyramid, which is wild. If you go to the other side of the pyramid, there's a lot of companies out there that they don't know what Claude is. They haven't really used anything. So it takes a while for new technology to integrate to the masses. But yeah, I'll be really curious to see like if we were to have another conversation in 5 years to say what really changed, it'll be fascinating. Now, for younger
Yeah.
kids that are going into school, college kids, people thinking about their careers, it presents an interesting challenge. Like, what should I do for school? What should I prepare myself for? Which was different than when I went to school was go get a business degree, become an accountant, become a lawyer. It was very, very specific. And you knew if you got a degree as a lawyer, you could become a lawyer, right?
Right.
Now
Right.
I'm encouraging everyone just learn as much as you can. Just learn, educate
Yeah.
yourself.
Right. Well, we know that there's always going to be a big demand for people in the trades, right?
Well, that
AI
that
is not going to do that. It can augment their ability, but you still need the people to do that.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Rick. The other day I had to replace my hot water heater in my house, right? So I hired a local guy, local, just started his business in the community next to me. Great guy. He's over, I'm talking to him and I said to him, I said, you're in a great business. He said, why is that? I said, because AI is not going to replace you. It'll help you with your marketing. It might help you with some
Hmm.
back office stuff. I said, but I'm not at the point yet where I envision like a robot showing up in my house and replacing my hot water heater. It's not there. Interestingly
Yeah.
enough, Rick, a lot of private equity firms and a lot of investment firms are starting to really look at the trades and do some consolidation there because they know that business
Hmm.
is not going to be replaced.
Right. But AI is going to allow these guys to these these tradesmen who, if they choose to go into business for themselves, they can really scale their operations through AI. It's a great scaling tool when it comes to building a business and building it quickly, much more quickly than you could in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah, you could launch a marketing engine with AI, whereas you'd have to go hire maybe more expensive people. So I totally agree. Yep,
Yeah,
that those industries are going to really be high growth industries because they're not going away.
right. Absolutely. So, in closing, if you could give one piece of advice to leaders building companies today, what would you tell them to focus on first?
Listen, listen to your people, listen to your customers, listen to your leadership team, listen to your vendors, listen to industry experts, like really, really listen, because those folks are going to give you all the answers you need on what you can do better for your business.
Yeah, and um, listening is listening learned or are you born to listen?
There are some people that are naturally good at it. That's just their personality profile. They are just really good at it. That's their DNA. There are some people that are not good at it, and it can be learned, but it starts with some self-awareness and no different than learning new skills that we might not have. You have to put in the work. And when I work with certain clients and I experience meetings, I'll come out of a meeting and I'll be like, "Hey, Rick, what did you learn from that meeting?" I could tell they weren't listening, right? So then I'll
Mm,
say, you missed a lot of really good information. Next time there's a meeting, I want you to speak less. I want you to really listen. I want you to come out of the meeting with 3 to 5 things that are really relevant that your team said, and then you do a review with them. What'd you learn? And
yeah.
it definitely can be a learned skill. There are some personalities, Rick, that it's just not going to work for.
Hmm.
There's some percentage of the human population that will not listen to anyone anytime ever, and we know who they are. And then there's everybody else. So to me,
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
focus on everybody else. I'm not going to work with a client that's in that 3% because
Hmm.
it's not an enjoyable experience for me.
Yeah. Do you think in this day and age, through the social media revolution, do you think listening has become a um, a more rare skill, or do you not see that having changed at all?
I think it's I think it's harder for people to pay attention in general because of all the digital stimulus that's going on.
Hmm.
Everybody's so used to, if you think of, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these social media tools, it's scrolling digital noise nonstop. So
Right.
what's happening, Rick, is the brain is getting trained to not be able to focus and pay attention because it needs stimulus all the time. So
Hmm.
I just believe because of that, people lack the patience and it's muscle memory, right? People are so used to, I need 45 seconds. I need another stimulus, and try to ask a child to put down their phone right? And
Uh-huh.
a lot of the brilliant people that are entering the workforce are younger. They're brilliant, right? But they've been trained and conditioned with this digital stimulus. Just go into a meeting and watch what happens with the phone. It's fascinating. Just watch everybody, and I'll sometimes tell people to put their phone away, and I could see the laser beams in their eyes towards me.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you mean?
No,
What do you
it's
mean?
yeah. I see it personally. I see it going into the gym, and the younger generation that's in the gym, they might do a set on a machine or something, but as soon as they're done with that, their heads are down on their phone. It's almost you get the impression that it's painful for them to set the phone down in order to do a set on a machine.
I mean, it literally is an addiction, um, and it's real. And I know for myself, I use the phone a lot. Whereas, if I think back early in my career, didn't even have a cell phone, right?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. So back to your question, I think it's harder for people to listen, not because they don't want to, but because the muscle memory of their brain is they need constant stimulation. So
Hmm.
it's hard. So we have to retrain the brain. And there are programs like Positive Intelligence is a good example. It's a program I went through 2 years ago, and it teaches you how to retrain your brain from the default behavior. No different than you go to the gym to build muscles. You have to go to the gym and build the brain muscle, which it is. And there are techniques that you could use to start to reprogram the brain so that it doesn't default to what it's been conditioned to do. Really hard, but it's another thing that I work with clients on is trying to change their default behavior, which is a challenge, but necessary sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Barry, this has been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you sharing your insight, both on this strategic side and the human side of building companies and the companies that you get involved in. We wish you the best, and we look forward to maybe chatting with you again in the future, because I think I'd like to have you on for another episode. Give some time, and we'll revisit the technology question here.
Oh, thank you, Rick. I appreciate you reaching out to me. Love just sharing ideas. And yeah, if in the future you want me back, just all you have to do is ask.
I know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Barry.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye now, bye for now.